What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Blade, and we're back with some more reactions. I know I took a long hiatus. I did a couple streams, I think last week, and then something happened, personal family emergency. So then I took a hiatus. We'll be back. And you already know what time it is. We have a lot of videos to react to. I missed a lot. And as you can see by this title, most disturbing crimes in the Pokemon community. Obviously, I love Pokemon. So, my boy Yapmaster dropped a banger just for me. So, without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe. We are at 299 subs, one away from the big 300. We are Sparta type beat. Anyways, I said we are Sparta. That's not the line. It's this is Sparta. You know, you know. Anyways, without further ado, let's start the video.
These are some of the most disturbing crimes that happen in the Pokemon community, and as the video progresses, the people involved go from merely twisted individuals to genuinely terrifying criminals. In the summer of 2017,
The gaming weirdo. 2017.
a young girl named Felicity posted a photo on social media while she was on vacation with her family at the Thousand Islands. The photo showed her by a pool wearing a blue bikini, and within hours after the post went up, one of the top popular Pokemon players liked the picture, and from there
2017, one of the top popular Pokemon players liked the picture of this girl. Okay? Why blurring his face? Obviously, it's not the boy Wolfie. I don't know who this guy is until they unblur.
he will start messaging her. We will refer to him as D, as Felicity has decided to keep his identity hidden. D was 21, while Felicity was much younger, but
Of course. Oh my goodness.
because she had other older friends and even mutual friends in the Pokemon community, she felt comfortable talking to him. The conversation started innocently enough, from small talk to compliments about her photos. She thought nothing about their interaction until the night that changed everything. It was 95 degrees in her room, and she was sleeping without clothes because of the heat, covered by a blanket. Now,
Oh my god, my lighting is... It changed. My lighting is too bright that I'm like... Green screens are going crazy on my face. Anyways, okay. So she was... legit. You know, I can relate. Cause yo, I'd be like sleeping... in the basement sometimes. And then like, especially cause it's winter in Canada, Canadian winters are fried. This year's winter was pretty crazy. And then my parents are old and they always crank up the heater, and then I die. I legit die in the basement, bro. Like I legit cannot sleep unless I'm like in my boxers because it gets way too hot. I can relate. Nude? Is that extreme? You might add, you gotta do what you gotta do to sleep. Anyways, this is already sounding very bad with this setup.
she sent back photos of the dark room and continued talking to him until he asked what she was wearing, and that's when he pushed even further. She didn't even know what the phrase meant, so he had
What do you mean? You didn't know what the phrase meant? Didn't he explicitly just say, "What are you wearing"?
to explain it, but when she refused to send the pictures he wanted, he resorted to emotional manipulation, making her feel guilty. With the immense amount of pressure D placed on her, Felicity finally gave in, and she sent a photo with a blanket covering her. But still, D wasn't satisfied, as he wanted to see a raunchier one. Felicity knew what he wanted, but would not give in to it, even after he convinced her that he wouldn't show anyone. And the messages didn't even stop after the vacation. D would keep contacting Felicity for years, with random check-ins and creepy messages, and this would continue until summer of 2015, when Felicity actually got into a relationship with another guy whom she called Dominic, and it was only then that her conversation with D drastically drastically reduced. After finding out about her new relationship, D blocked her on his original Snapchat account and instead followed her with one of his fake accounts to keep tabs on her. Now soon afterwards, Felicity's relationship with Dominic would actually hit the rocks, and once D realized that Felicity was single again, he sent her a message on Twitter asking for them to reconnect, and Felicity then replied saying,
Sure, I don't remember when we used to talk though, but okay.
D then responded,
Really? Like, really? It was last summer pretty much. You would talk a lot. You used to call me Bear. You were very, open. Does any of that ring a bell at all?
to which Felicity then replied saying,
No, I don't remember.
D then tried to explain further, saying,
That's crazy. I really liked you. It was before you got with that guy. Don't remember his name. Think he was black though. Crazy how much someone can impact your life. But you might not even be a blip in the other's radar. LOL. Yeah, I think.
She then tried to explain saying,
I kind of remember you. Don't be upset with me. And then just not talk to me. My memory was really bad.
she tried to pretend like D didn't exist, and none of their interactions ever happened, but he simply couldn't let it go. He sent her messages on Twitter, Snapchat, Kik, and even on Facebook, and he would
Oh my god, look at this simp, bro.
even share a screenshot of their previous conversation to help jog her memory.
Oh my god, look at this desperate brother. Oh my god.
Accompanied by a message that read,
This is where it all started. I was jelly. Then I was upset and sad. Then I didn't want to talk to you because my feelings would interfere because you were with someone.
he even sent her a link to Tyler the Creator's song Too Effing Young, which was specifically about a person who was not old enough for a relationship. And according to D, he thought of her when he listened to the song. But even though Felicity kept faking ignorance, D continued to pressure her until the day she finally snapped. She also held herself accountable for what transpired with D, saying,
So I understand that half of this is my fault.
Felicity would end up holding on to that guilt until February of 2019, when she decided to take action. She created a Discord server for old friends from the community, including mutual friends of D, and it was in this server that she opened up to them about what transpired between them and how she felt about it. She also informed them to never contact her in the future to avoid bringing back memories of her conversations with D, but the trauma of the exploitation she experienced still held her down. So on March 27, 2019, she decided to expose D to the entire world. She uploaded a video to YouTube titled Finally Coming Forward, sharing her experience with the entire Pokemon YouTube community, and within hours, this video would go viral, getting the attention of the entire community, and the hashtag PokeMeToo started trending online. As a community, there was supposed
Bro, I swear that year alone was like the biggest Me Too movement in like internet history. Because this wasn't even just the Pokemon community. This was the, I don't even want to, bro, the Smash community. Oh my, the Smash community went into complete dumpster fire, bro. That was like, it was like one after the other. Every day someone was saying something about someone. That whole community went into shambles. Everything they built, everything they worked towards went to shit, and they can never recover. Like I don't even know what to say, man. But yeah, there was that, the Smash community shambles, and then it was like the streamers community was going crazy. And yeah, there was so much going on at that time. I'm not even surprised. There was so much Me Too movements in that year, I swear.
to be about fun and friendship, was revealed to be filled with offenders who engaged in inappropriate conduct around younger people. However, D's situation was unique because of the threat he made against Felicity, which he revealed in a subsequent video on his channel. But she also had to admit that D wasn't the only person who'd hurt her.
But what I didn't mention in that video was the fact that that didn't happen once with one person. That happened with 3 people.
But of the 3 men, D was the worst of the 3 people who preyed on her in the community. And toward the end of the video, Felicity would finally reveal D's true identity, identifying him as Nathan Putnam, who's known in the Pokemon space as Decatur, a
I don't know this guy.
Pokemon content creator and artist who makes graphics for several famous Pokemon YouTubers. Felicity then revealed Nathan's threats in detail, saying,
He said that if I tried to speak out against him at any point, he would hurt me and my family. And he had the pictures to do it.
But the threats would no longer have a hold on her when she discovered that Nathan had betrayed her in the worst way possible. Felicity's private photos were out there, and she didn't know how many people had them. And so the Pokemon community erupted.
Yo, that's freaking CP, is it not? He distributed CSAM. Is that not what he did? Because at the time that they were talking, she was not an adult. And he was an adult.
for the second time, with Keemstar also reacting to the revelations on Twitter, saying,
Young people made allegations that this white man, known as Decatur, asked them for explicit pictures. He since deleted his Twitter and Instagram with the alleged
Bro has a shelf for freaking snacks and a Chick-fil-A bag. You need to replace that shelf with some weights, brother.
conduct took place.
What Felicity didn't know, however, was that she wasn't the first victim, and she wouldn't be the last. Another young victim called Caroline, who shared her experience on X, had her age clearly visible in her Twitter and Skype profiles. But Nathan still messaged her anyway, aggressively demanding explicit photos. She said, "I feel it's important for everyone to know the horrible things he's done to not only myself, but many others, as he is or was a part of an online community full of young people. This will continue to happen to young girls if we do not step in." Another young woman named V also came out to claim that she experienced something completely different, but equally disturbing with Nathan, who apparently lied about his age to flirt with her. She shared screenshots of their chat on X, where he
I
said,
genuinely just want to cuddle something right now. And my dilemma is 1, I'm naked in the face, and 2, you live across the US, so this is...
she responded saying,
Oh my god, is that you flirting, my dude?
and he said,
No, not at all. That's really like bad for flirting. In order for me to be flirting, you have to say some You gotta say something that's just easy for me to be smooth as because I'm a train wreck. But it made sense because I was turning 18, so...
Now this made her curious about his age, but when she asked, Nathan responded saying,
I turned 20 in less than a month.
to which she then replied,
Oh my god, you're a baby. Also a Gemini. Wow.
V also mentioned that he was talking to her about some girl he was talking to and sent pictures of her, but she thought nothing of this at the time. Nathan said,
She was talking about intercourse, and then was like, well, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, I'm blue, dabba dee da.
and V said,
Yo, what is this guy saying right now? What the heck?
Lol, damn, she's quick to jump to that subject.
and then Nathan said,
I mean, I feel like it's my fault because I'm bad, and I'm like, hey, you're cute, let me break your ankles.
no, Miss
Bro, what kind of riz is this guy doing right now? What kind of riz is this guy doing?
all day chaos. Nathan never actually responded to any of these allegations, and within days of this being leaked, he decided to delete his Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube accounts, and disappeared from the community completely. And this would lead to the PAX East convention, a major Pokemon game organizer, to ban him from attending future events. And while Nathan's crimes were horrifying, this next one was even more disturbing since it happened at a Pokemon convention.
Oh no, not the essay.
Have ourselves throwaway story saying, I was assaulted by Judy Azzarelli.
Anyone who's been paying attention to the Pokemon community
What happened? So, okay, I'm gonna assume that it's a blackout. That VGC blackout. So what, like the tournament? Something happened with the power and the entire venue was like pitch black. And then that's when this guy friggin' did his thing.
over the last decade, especially the video game championship scene, where players participate in official Pokemon game tournaments, would know that it has grown kinda toxic, with inhumane behaviors becoming increasingly more common. However, the true extent of the disturbing behavior in the fanbase would become known on September 23rd, 2025, when an anonymous account with the username useyourvoice00 posted a tweet containing a link to a Google document with the caption,
I was taken advantage of by Jody Azzarelli.
a popular Pokemon VGC competitor. Inside the document, the poster recounted her experience at the 2024 European International Championships with Judy. For the sake of privacy and safety,
Why do I think I know this one? I think I seen it on Twitter when it happened. People were talking about it.
the poster had chosen not to reveal her identity, but we will refer to her as Amna. The document Amna shared was titled,
My story.
with the trigger warning stating that it
Included sensitive topics such as
That's definitely the R word.
verbal misdemeanor and bodily violations. If those topics are uncomfortable or harmful for you, please do not continue to read.
and she then began her revelation by first clearing the air, saying,
After recent events, I've decided to come forward with my story. I've debated sharing my experience, but I want to protect other members in my community.
in 2023, at the North American International Championships, a major Pokemon tournament, Amna met Jody Azzarelli, a top player in the VGC world, who competed in many championships, and had made it all the way up to the World Championship finals. Judy and Amna immediately became friends, and it wouldn't take long for their relationship to grow into something more intimate. And for a while, the two enjoyed a fairly stable interaction, but that was until a few months into their relationship that Amna got some information about Judy that marked the beginning of the
In
end.
December of that year, I was informed that he'd been cheating on me, which prompted the downfall into the end of our relationship.
Now they tried to part ways in a friendly way, but the only problem was that the couple had booked accommodations to stay together at the EUIC 2024, one of the biggest Pokemon competitions in the world, before Amna actually found out about Judy's secret affair. But with their relationship falling apart, the plans to stay in the same room no longer sat well with Amna, but because she didn't want to make a huge deal
Bro, these guys were so lucky. Yo, look at how that looks, man. Man, that should have been a VGC play. I should have stayed. If I stayed as a Pokemon content creator, I could have been up right now. I could have got noticed by the Pokemon company. Got some sponsors. for some free stuff, and then they'd be like, "You want to come to the VGC tournament?" And I'd be like, "Yes, sir." Damn.
Out of it, she decided to keep the rooms anyway. But according to her,
Looking back, I regret this decision, but felt it was necessary to avoid conflict. I intended to be friendly, but made an effort to avoid him to keep things uncomplicated.
and a few months later, in April 2024, it was time for Amna to travel to the competition. But the same conflict that she was trying to avoid would prove inevitable.
Saturday, April 6th, while at EUIC, the Pokemon crew and I went to the club Fabric. I was on the dance floor when somebody grabbed me and informed me that Judy was making a scene by aggressively questioning others about my whereabouts and trying to find me. When he found me, he yelled that I needed to tell him where I was, and that it was not okay that he didn't know where I was. I was trying to de-escalate the situation and calmly told him that we're no longer together and that I didn't need to keep him informed. However, he became so aggressive that 3 community members stepped in and stayed by my side to make sure I was safe.
Now, after this encounter, Amna had to return to their shared room because she didn't want to upset him more and risk another aggressive outburst. And things would get pretty quiet after that until the end of the tournament. Later on April 7th, Amna and her friends ended their evening at an arcade bar to wind down after the tournament weekend. But while they were sitting there, Amna recounted that
Judy and his group of friends showed up, and I attempted to keep my distance. However, when he saw me sitting at a table alone, he came over. But while Judy was at Amna's table, another community member approached, and she seized this opportunity to quickly end her conversation with Judy and get out of this completely. But then something strange happened. During this interaction, I was entirely distracted and not paying attention to my drink on the table in front of me. I finished the drink at my table. This is the last thing I remember from that night.
Oh, he drugged her. He drugged her. Oh, no, no, no.
I do not know how I left the bar or got back to my hotel room.
everything that happened after Amna finished that drink had been completely wiped from her memory. But what she saw when she opened her eyes left her completely traumatized.
The next thing I remember is waking up to him actively taking advantage of me. My clothes had been removed to expose my body and I was frozen. I couldn't move a single part of my body as he continued. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and he immediately jumped off of me, and all I could do was curl into a ball and act as if I was sleeping. Then everything went black again.
By the time Amna woke up the next morning, she knew that she had to leave the hotel immediately, but was scared to tell Judy. And Amna described the events that happened that morning, saying,
I was afraid that if I expressed this to him, he would become aggressive and prevent me from going. After expressing how I did not remember anything from the night before and asking what happened, he left and proceeded to send me a voice memo saying, I know this hasn't been the best of weeks and that a lot has happened, but thank you for being you.
Now, despite that traumatizing event, after that conversation, Amna and Judy went back to their regular lives. But due to the fact that she was possibly drugged, Amna's memory of that night was hazy, and that she would spend the next few days trying to piece together what happened in that room that night, she would attempt to reach out to Judy again.
Over text, I tried to get him to fill me in on the events of the evening. It became too traumatic, and I decided to block his number and his accounts on all social media. Because of this, messages from mutual friends started pouring in. I've received screenshots documenting him saying that he should have recorded our conversation the morning after, and him calling our interaction blackout intercourse.
And although Amna kept
So it was 100% the R word.
those conversations private to protect herself and continued enjoying the Pokemon community she loves, the weight of what happened followed her everywhere until she decided to expose Judy.
I feel as it is my responsibility to share this information, to protect other women in this community. I am aware that this may hurt my chances of growing within the space, but this is a risk that I've made peace with. I am asking for privacy, for my safety, and I do not wish to be named. I'm incredibly grateful for the people who've been there for me.
And the moment Amna's post hit Twitter, it went viral within the Pokemon VGC community. And in a matter of hours, top players and members of the community had started coming forward. For example, Cassie, a pro Pokemon player and two-time national champion in the VGC community, also weighed in on the situation, saying,
This reached me as a rumor a few months ago, one of many. What worried me now is that the rumor also said there were more cases with other American players and prominent people from the community covering them up for a long time. We'll see if this complaint triggers a chain reaction.
And so it turned out that people within the community had already known something was going on with Judy, and they were all pretty much aware that he was a creep. And they even warned other people in the community in private, but no one specifically knew about Amna's incident until she came forward. Now, shortly after Amna's revelation, Eurorin, a thumbnail artist and fellow gamer who was also Judy's roommate, made a post on X. In this post, Eurorin said,
Everyone should read that dog. My heart goes out to the person who wrote, and I'm sorry for what they experienced. I like to keep my private life private, but being close to a public person, some aspects of that were compromised. I do want to say that I had cut off Judy from my life a while ago for separate reasons, but because of local tenant law, we are still currently living together. I don't feel comfortable fielding questions about someone no longer in my life. If you were not my friend, please stop DMing me.
And Eurorin's post would end up making the whole situation explode even more, with several other members of the community coming out to praise Amna for coming forward and recounting their own horror stories. For example, another Pokemon player, Gabrielle, shared her own experience saying,
I've also had my own questionable experiences with Judy and experienced firsthand his anger and aggression. For anyone that believes a single shred of him asking for consent in that horrible situation, just know that he more than likely did not. I've been around Judy when he's had more drinks than he should have after an event, and he's tried pressuring me to come to a hotel with him. May 2023, Hartford Regional. He tells me he has a room to himself, Saturday nights, and asks me if I want to come cuddle him that night, and I repeatedly tell him I'm not agreeing to anything. I show up to that bar that night, not planning on drinking, and he's already plastered when I get there, and he keeps making comments about me going to his hotel with him and rubbing my leg and making me me extremely uncomfortable. I found out that after that event and his trying to pursue me, that he was in a relationship while making those advances towards me. Additionally, at a Beast Coast event in September 2023, he screamed in my face, and there are many witnesses to that.
And shortly after she made that post, comments began to pour in, with one person even confirming being a witness to Judy's aggression that day.
Love you so much, girl. In all my life, I never witnessed a man yell in a woman's face that aggressively before. Over which bar the group should go next to. Literally, what? I'm so sorry you had to experience any of his actions.
Now, the morning after all of these accusations went public, Judy finally came out with his own response.
This isn't true. This isn't true.
I remember this. I literally saw this clip. I literally saw this clip of him freaking out.
I'm gonna have to end stream and address this. This is a real accusation.
However, shortly after denying the allegations, Judy made a post on X that was essentially him admitting to all of his actions. Now in the confession, Judy denied drugging Amna. Instead, he claimed that she got that drunk on her own and that he just took advantage of an already incoherent person. However, a few hours after Judy made the post, he deleted it. But thankfully, the moderators of the Pokemon VGC community were able to document the content, which they then summarized in a post made later that day, saying,
This morning, US time, Judy posted his version of the events. I will not link it because he was graphic in his description. You can look it up for yourself if you really want to read it. Suffice it to say, apart from providing a few additional details, he owns up to taking advantage of her. He's removing himself from the Pokemon community with no plans to return.
And so, standing in solidarity with Amna, moderators of the VGC community on Reddit reconfirmed to the members how they value the safety of everyone in the space, saying,
We at r/VGC want the Pokemon community to be a safe place for people of all sexes, genders, orientations, races, creeds, abilities, etc. both on and offline. It is horrible what Judy did to the victim, and we hope for the victim's recovery in the years ahead, and that Judy will do the work necessary to turn his life to a better place. It is also horrible that Judy is not the only person who's taken advantage of someone around Pokemon events, and it is horrible that the community continues to not take proactive measures to keep these spaces safe.
But still, as of today, no legal action has been taken against Judy. This next case, however, involves a major figure in the Pokemon community who got caught with blood on his hands.
Schumacher is one of what's expected to be many witnesses called to the Edgar County Courthouse to testify in Peyton's murder trial.
Oh, I heard of this story, King Empoleon. I heard of this story. I remember, I think I watched a video on this story before.
Terry Payton is a pro Pokemon gamer who lived with his mother, Kathy Payton, in a small apartment situated in the city of Paris, Illinois. Kathy was 53 years old and had been struggling with severe alcohol and drug addiction for most of her life. She'd lost custody of previous children in the early 1990s due to the struggles with alcohol, and her relationship with Terry's father, Stephen Lee, ended in a divorce that completely broke the family apart. Now, after Stephen was deported to England following domestic abuse allegations, Kathy was left to raise Terry alone in public housing. But even though all they had was each other, Kathy and Terry's relationship was anything but normal, as it was plagued by violence, which would get progressively worse as Terry grew older. Terry's neighbors and members of the community even witnessed Kathy hitting or screaming at Terry on numerous occasions. And additionally, Terry frequently stayed with neighbors when Kathy locked him out of the house. But while Kathy was violent, the neighbors described Terry as peaceful and respectful, even during confrontations with his mother. And Terry's friend, Jacob Shoemaker, was one of the people who witnessed the maltreatment firsthand. He'd seen Kathy hit Terry and heard her scream at him on different occasions.
It wasn't more or less provoked, it was more of an act of self-defense. His mom has always been abusive.
She locked him out of their apartment for days at a time, forcing him to sleep over at the homes of some of his neighbors, like the Lawrence family, who eventually started keeping spare clothes for him. But the worst part wasn't the beatings or the verbal attacks, it was the threats. According to the staff at Terry's high school, they'd received multiple phone calls from Kathy, who constantly threatened them in an attempt to get Terry on the phone. Terry's high school counselor, Stacy Garzolini-Skelton, also called the Department of Children and Family Services after Kathy said she would use an electric knife to cut Terry's leg off and would kill him if he touched her medication. And in total, over a dozen calls were made to the Department of Children and Family Services, with officers from the DCFS even visiting their home in March and April of 2011. But every time they tried to talk to Kathy, she refused to cooperate. And whenever Terry was interviewed, he would also deny the maltreatment out of fear. And with no victim statement and zero cooperation of the accused, the investigators would eventually mark the allegations as unfounded. And so no actual action was ever taken to rescue Terry from the horrific situation he was stuck in. And Jacob would also later confirm that Terry was actually so terrified to seek help from anyone after that he found escape in the only way he could, which was playing games online. In April of 2010, Terry signed up to Smogon University, the Pokemon gaming forum where thousands of players from around the world gather to debate strategies, share battle tactics, and compete in tournaments.
W website. You get all the information on these, on this forum. I don't know how they were doing it back then, but these mans were legends. I'm gonna get off topic if I talk about Smogon. But yeah, bro, Okay, I'm just gonna play the video. I could talk about this for like hours.
He chose the username King Empoleon, inspired by his favorite Pokemon, Empoleon, a water and steel type, known for being proud, powerful, and resilient. And it wouldn't take long for Terry to begin participating in online tournaments, battling with other competitive players in matches. And for the next 14 months, Terry threw himself into this world, amassing 422 posts across countless threads. And in 2010, Terry even made plans to attend the video game championships in Indianapolis, which was an in-person tournament where top players from across the region would compete. He was excited and talked about it online, expressing how badly he wanted to meet some of the people he'd been battling and trading with for months. But at the very last minute, Terry cancelled. On June 24th, he dropped a post on Smogan saying,
I wish I could join you guys in the fun, but my hopes have been dashed. Can't come, even to join the celebration. Hopefully, I can come to Hawaii. $3,000 plus. Here I come.
In another post, he said,
oh hell yeah, hopefully I won't miss out on the action this year. I haven't been to Indy in years.
But by 2011, Terry's activities on the forum began to decline drastically, and it was around this period that Kathy sustained a very serious injury, which stopped her from working multiple jobs, making Terry her primary caregiver now. Due to her condition, Kathy began receiving disability benefits, and slowly, because she was at home all the time, her alcohol addiction got worse. At first, she was using it as a coping mechanism for her situation, but over time, she started relying on heavy painkillers and combining them with daily drinking. And as a result of the substance abuse, Kathy's behavior would become even more increasingly erratic, especially towards Terry. And text messages between Terry and Jacob show the frustration building in those final months. In March 2011, Terry mentioned that he previously tried physical persuasion with his mother, but she tried to put him in jail instead. But it's not clear what he exactly meant by this. But by April of the same year, he sent another text message to Jacob saying,
I'm going to kill her.
And that he was going to
legit snack. I'm sick of that alcoholic.
And later on June 20th, he wrote to Jacob saying,
we might have mother to bury if she doesn't stop whining about a tape case I don't have.
And on June 22nd, Terry would make what would become his final post on Smogan, where he said,
I totally forgot to pick up that mod. Oh, what the hell was it anyways?
Unfortunately, he would never receive an answer to that question. But the next day, on June 23rd, 2011, Terry finally had enough of Kathy's antics. And after waking up to find her drinking whiskey very early in the morning, Terry would get into an argument with his mother after she accused him of forgetting to lock the apartment door. And within a couple of minutes, the argument had escalated into a shouting match where they both ended up exchanging threats. She then accused Terry of stealing from her and forced him to call the police on himself. However, the officers didn't take the call seriously, and Kathy, now seeing that her antics were failing, began to throw garbage at Terry, taking the argument to a whole new level. Now Terry tried to de-escalate by taking away her alcohol and pouring it down the kitchen sink, and that's when Kathy attacked him. She clawed at his arms, tried to bite him, and backed him into a corner in the kitchen, threatening to end his life right there and then. And then Kathy reached for a large knife in the cabinet. Terry knew that she was indeed going to use it after all the threats she'd made about ending his life, and he believed she meant it this time. So Terry grabbed a smaller knife from the kitchen counter and immediately stabbed his mother 7 times in the chest and neck. He then threw her against the wall, pushing her down and hitting her head on the concrete floor multiple times, leading to severe skull fractures and brain hemorrhaging. Now, after the stabbing, Terry didn't call for help or try to give first aid. Instead, he left the apartment to clear his head, walked to McDonald's, and bought food. He also went to Walmart to purchase certain items before heading back to the house. And upon his return, Terry dragged Kathy's body from the kitchen to the bedroom to conceal it, and he then began to clean up the blood on the kitchen floor. And shortly after he was done, he sent a message to Jacob.
I killed El Madre, and I need help getting rid of the body. At about 2, we got into a fight, and my dark side surged out, and I stabbed her 7 times, after mercilessly beating the hell out of her.
On top of that, he also published a post on Facebook saying,
I'm a monster.
And consumed by guilt, Terry then decided to confess to another friend, Colin Hollowell, that he'd killed Kathy. But upon seeing Colin's shocked reaction, Terry tried to do damage control by claiming that he was just kidding. And Colin responded, you could probably get self-defense out of it if it were true. And so eventually, Terry decided to turn himself in to the police and dialed 911. And within hours after the fight, the police would respond to the call and arrived to find Kathy with 7 stab wounds in her chest and neck. But even though he'd just taken the life of his own mother, Terry would receive immense support from the internet, with many of the people defending him. According to his supporters, had the killing not occurred, the maltreatment would have continued, and some even agreed that Terry's actions were self-defense. And in order to help Terry fight the case, his supporters would even raise funds to pay his legal fees. One anonymous advocate, for example, would even go ahead to create a Facebook page called Never Give Up on Terry Payton, which was meant to rally support during his detention and trial.
He just tried to protect himself, because she's crazy. His mom is absolutely crazy.
That's facts, bro. Free Terry. W Mans, bro. He was going through hell because he had such an evil mother.
I have a good word to say about her.
This support overwhelmed Terry, and his first words to the public after his arrest were, however, his statement angered members of the public too, including Kathy's sister, Janice Bruno.
He is not insane. He was talked into it by all of you people. I did help him. I should have helped my sister.
You know what? freaking...
Don't you touch me, ma'am, or you'll be sitting in jail.
She argued that the claims of maltreatment were exaggerated, especially since Terry was physically larger than Kathy, who also had a disability at this point. But even with the immense support he received online, Terry was still charged with 2 counts of first-degree offenses. And while he was still a minor at the time, the level of brutality involved in the murder pushed the authorities to try him as an adult. The actual trial would eventually begin in February 2013, nearly 2 years after that June morning. And when Terry eventually took the stand in court, he broke down in tears as he explained his experience living with Kathy and describing the events that happened on the day of the murder. After Terry's testimony, the case went to the jury, and 5 hours later, they returned with a verdict. The jury found Terry guilty of the lesser charge of second-degree murder, as they believed he was indeed acting in self-defense.
The decision, I think, really came down to whether his actions were reasonable. It's a fair reading of the jury's verdict that they did not think they were reasonable, but that they did think that he believed he was acting in self-defense. Try to get him what we think is a fair sentence. This charge carries probation. The young man has no previous criminal record, and we don't think he's a danger to the community.
And so in June 2013, Terry was sentenced to 8 years in prison, taking into account his youth, his lack of prior criminal record, and his history of maltreatment. But this next case is even more horrifying, since both the victims and perpetrators were
my son and my boyfriend's daughter.
Okay,
they went for a walk, and they haven't come home, and it's now almost midnight.
The drainage ditch tragedy.
It was around 7 p.m. on June 7, 2017, when 2 step-siblings, 9-year-old Aiden Demi Zelmer and 9-year-old Kaya Campbell, left their home on Forest Drive in Thornton, Colorado. They had a simple mission: to steal Pokemon cards from a nearby Walgreens grocery store. Earlier that day, Aiden had gone through his stepsister's Pokemon card collection and destroyed some of them, and this greatly upset Kaya, as she loved Pokemon cards and collected them religiously. She even made YouTube videos showing them off.
Hey guys, so today I have a Pokemon card opening for you guys, and it is the Evolutions version.
So the plan was
how expensive those cards are now. That specific pack, XY Evolutions.
to steal new cards from the store to replace the ones Aiden destroyed. However, just before midnight, Aiden's mother, Katie Zelmer, would place a call through to 911.
And I've gone driving around looking for them. I can't find them anywhere. They left here around 7.
Do they normally go for this long of walks?
No. Oh, they had mentioned running to the store and coming back.
Which store would they have gone to? The King Supers?
Yeah, King Supers.
The kids had been gone for hours at this point, and since neither of them had a cell phone, Katie had no way of reaching them, and so the police immediately dispatched a team to search the area for the kids, as well as another team to interview Katie. And while the officers were still at the house getting Katie's statement, Kaya's father, Jacob, called to inform Katie that he'd found Aiden walking alone on the street. But the only problem was that Kaya was still nowhere to be seen, and as soon as Jacob and Aiden got home, police immediately took Aiden to the station for questioning. And although Aiden was immediately cooperative and willing to talk, the cops would quickly realize that finding Kaya was not going to be an easy task.
What was Kai wearing?
She was wearing a Broncos shirt. It was red or blue. I don't remember.
While Aiden claimed that he couldn't even remember the color of clothes Kaya wore, other family members confirmed that she put on an orange shirt. And as soon as the police got that confirmation, they sent out an Amber Alert the next morning. More than 20 police officers and volunteers from the community set out to search for Kaya, with missing person posters. They checked bodies of water, combed through green belts, and knocked on doors. But still, Kaya was nowhere to be seen. But while the search was going on, the detectives would attempt to get more information about Aiden's relationship with Kaya.
Have you ever hit Kaya before?
I've never hit any girl before.
Although Aiden's willingness to replace the damaged Pokemon cards suggested an improvement in their relationship, actually stealing new cards proved to be easier said than done. Store security footage captured Aiden and Kaya entering the store just before 7:15 p.m, heading straight to the game section. But their attempt to steal the Pokemon cards would turn out to be unsuccessful, as they discovered that the cards had been secured in a glass case to prevent theft. And so Aiden then quickly changed the plan and filled his jacket with candy before exiting the store with Kaya instead. They initially headed to another Walgreens store to try again, but had to make a quick stop at home after Kaya complained about being thirsty.
Originally, we were first just gonna walk straight down this street and just keep going all the way there. But she said she wanted water, so we went home and got the backpack and got a big jug of water and a cup.
Now Aiden told the officers that they were at the house for less than 5 minutes, just enough to load their backpack with enough water, give Aiden's twin brother some of the stolen candy, and head out again to complete their mission. However, using the security footage recovered from the first Walgreens store and the map of the route Aiden provided, the police discovered that Aiden and Kaya walked through a different route entirely. Now on their way home, Aiden said that he noticed that the weather had become gloomy and that it was about to rain, so he advised that they seek shelter under some branches to avoid getting wet.
And she was saying, like, if it doesn't rain within like 5 or 6 minutes, I say we get up and start walking home quick. so that it does, like, we have a chance to get home before it rains.
However, this is when Aiden's story would start to sound sketchy, because he later mentioned that he struggled to walk back home under the same rain that he supposedly tried to avoid by waiting. Now, on their walk home through the thunderstorm, Aiden and Kaya supposedly got separated. According to Aiden, Kaya suddenly ran off after getting upset about something that he couldn't explain. He claimed to have looked for her in the rain for about 30 to 45 minutes, but simply couldn't find her.
Jacoby, my mom's boyfriend, Kaya's dad, pulled up and like started yelling for me. I ran over and got in the car, and then he took me over to the house, and that's when I started talking to the cops and going back over here with them.
Now, the officers, noticing that many details on Aiden's story were not lining up, pleaded with him to give them any kind of information that could lead them to Kaya. At that point, it had been over 8 hours since she'd been last seen, but after realizing that they were getting nowhere with the interrogation, the officers stepped out to come up with another plan with the rescue team.
Well, I want you to know, we've already had officers all throughout that area, Aiden, with dogs. You know how dogs work, right?
I'm guessing they sniff.
I mean, they're going to be able to pick up her scent.
Now, the dogs sent out with the rescue team weren't able to pick up Kaya's scent on the route Aiden actually traced, which clearly confirmed that Aiden wasn't telling them everything he knew. But just when they thought they'd hit a deadlock, another officer, who'd gone to confirm the surveillance footage at the second Walgreens store, discovered a new piece of information.
They didn't see you go into the store.
I had went in. Hey, I'm not sure what I have to do for you guys to prove that.
And not just that, the outfit that Aiden wore to the first store wasn't the same one he was wearing when the police found him walking home, but security footage from Walgreens captured him wearing a gray sweatshirt.
Your behavior has not been normal around other people that know you very well, okay? So you need to make sure that you're telling us the truth.
And the next question the officers asked Aiden gave them a glimpse into what actually might have happened to Kaya.
If you wanted to hurt somebody, how would you hurt them?
I would always fist fights. That was really the only way I would hurt somebody.
The officers, now frustrated by Aiden's lack of answers, decided to bring in Katie, hoping she would be able to get him to talk. And the moment she walked in, Aiden's demeanor changed completely.
What's going on, Aiden? Come on, baby. I'm literally giving them all the clues. It's frustrating me. Won't stop blaming me.
He began to cry, re-emphasizing his innocence. But his mom, knowing something was up with him, began to ask questions about their whereabouts, what activities they did, and what people they saw or met along the way.
Did you guys do anything you weren't supposed to do, like smoke some weed or drink or steal something? Or I know you were going to steal something, but did you?
Now at this point, the police got consent from Aiden's parents to collect his clothing and shoes for DNA testing and carry out a fingernail scraping test and buckle swab on him. They also arranged for a polygraph test to be carried out to obtain more information from Aiden.
And all they wanted to do was accuse him and not listen.
Right.
And he just wants to talk to somebody who will actually listen to him rather than just accuse him of things.
Now, since this test needed to be carried out in private, Katie was asked to step out of the room. And in the meantime, the officers tried to make small talk with Aiden to get to know him a bit and get him settled before she began the actual test.
Do you know if you've ever been a patient like in a mental hospital?
I've gone to Jefferson Hills before.
Is that a mental hospital?
It's like they do like mental evaluation holds on you.
Now, the Jefferson Hills Aiden referred to was a hospital that offers group therapy and other intensive programs to people seeking help to manage mental health disorders such as anxiety, depression, and acute mental crisis. And although Aiden told the officers that his mental health had improved as well as his anger, Aiden's case file at the social service office told another story. It turned out that Aiden had a long history of violent outbursts, blackmail behavior, anger, and aggression, and even had a caseworker assigned to him for behavior and in-home therapy.
Yep, this guy done. The fact that the story was called the drainage ditch, this guy definitely did some messed up thing to this poor innocent stepsister of his. This guy's only like 15 or something. Do that to a 10-year-old is the insane work.
Diagnosed with anything?
ADHD, major depression, major emotional disorders, anger.
But despite being aware of all these mental diagnoses, his parents left Kaya with him unsupervised. Aiden even had been prescribed medication to manage his mental health issues. However, he chose to forego the medication and replace it with alcohol and pot. Aiden also confirmed that he and his twin brother had spent some time in the social services facility after Katie called the police on them for smoking pot and drinking in their home. And when the officers asked Aiden to explain what happened while he was with Kaya from the beginning, he declined and showed no interest in telling his story again.
Could we do the test without me having to tell the story?
No, unfortunately we can't. Because I need to make sure that I'm asking the right questions on the test. When I ask you the questions, your body will tell me what the truth is. So Okay.
Despite his initial lack of enthusiasm though, Aiden would later change his mind and spent the next 30 minutes retelling the entire story to the officer. And by the end of that session, the officers allowed Aiden to take a bathroom break and met with the rest of the investigative team to go over the story Aiden had shared. Now by the time Aiden came back from his bathroom break, he suddenly decided he needed to correct a part of his story and flagged down another detective immediately.
I realized I probably tell you is like I didn't, when me and her split up, I didn't lose her. I intentionally left her because she was really annoying me.
The new detective asked Aiden to remain in the testing room for the polygraph examiner to return, so they could inform her about the new piece of information. However, the longer Aiden remained alone in the room, the more nervous and agitated he became. And after waiting for a brief period, the examiner and a couple of other officers came back into the room to inform Aiden that Kaya had been found.
We just found Kaya's body.
What?
Yeah.
Around 5:30 p.m., a resident near 100...
Look at this guy. What? Mother... You did that, okay? What are you talking about? What? You found her body?
28th Avenue and Jasmine Street had seen Kaya face down in a drainage ditch about a mile and a half from the family home.
I think my wife and I and our kids just found her.
Okay, are you in contact with her?
No, I unfortunately I think that she's...
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Her body was partially undressed, her pants and underwear pulled around her ankles, and her shirt pushed up. The police took DNA swabs to further confirm if she's...
This guy needs to be locked up in the mental asylum. Bro, 15? Yo, this guy should have stayed in freaking Jefferson Hill. Oh my. I'm just thinking about me when I was 15, and I would never do that. Never in my brain did I ever have some sort of disturbing thought to do such a thing to a child.
Been taken advantage of, and if her killer's DNA could be recovered. And neighbors living around the drainage ditch would later tell police they heard a child crying near the exact spot between 8:30 p.m. and 9:45 p.m. the previous night, and this was right around the time Kaya and Aiden would have been in that area. The Amber Alert that was sent out for Kaya was cancelled immediately, and the case became a homicide investigation. And suddenly Aiden's story about the rain separation didn't just sound wrong, it sounded like a lie. Now the polygraph examiner, knowing that the test would not continue since Kaya had been found, tried to convince him to finally explain what happened, but his next reaction would change everything.
Wait, are you guys accusing me?
Aiden.
What's
Listen
happening then?
Aiden.
You
Aiden, listen to me.
What's happening?
Aiden.
And while he was sitting in that interview room, spinning several stories about how he got separated from Kaya, the officers actually found the footage they'd been looking for, which was surveillance footage from the second Walgreens store. It turns out that the CCTV cameras at the back of the store had captured them walking away from the store, and just 40 minutes later, another camera recorded Aiden returning home, notably dry and alone. To calm the situation, the officers brought Katie in to comfort Aiden, who was now wailing terribly, and once inside, she then sat on the floor with Aiden in her arms, trying to trick him into giving out more information. Aiden informed Katie that he wanted to reveal new facts about the case, but wanted a lawyer present before sharing them. And after Katie relayed this to the detectives, they let them know that Aiden would need to undergo a test to determine if he'd taken advantage of Kaya because of the state she was found in.
That's to see if you
What the hell?
The officers instantly transported Aiden to...
Bro, imagine the mom, bro. That is like so embarrassing, humiliating to say that sentence out of her mouth as a mother to her son. She's probably going through it. To say that sentence to your own son.
The hospital for the test, and then to the social services facility on Katie's request. And within 48 hours, the forensic teams processed DNA evidence obtained from Aiden and Kaya and uncovered Aiden's DNA on Kaya's body. They also confirmed that the blood gotten from Aiden's clothing and shoes had come from Kaya. And so at 11:38 p.m. on June 10, 2017, officers arrested Aiden on suspicion of first-degree murder, supported by the forensic evidence and surveillance footage. The coroner would also later confirm that
Blunt force injuries to the head. Oh my god, this guy like beat her head into like mush.
Kaya died from blunt force trauma to the head. She was hit at least 5 separate times with an unknown object, which caused her skull to fracture in multiple places. And so after Aiden's arrest, he was held in juvenile detention, while he still continued to maintain his innocence. However, over time, Aiden would actually get comfortable with a fellow detainee, who would eventually become the first person to hear the truth about what really happened that night. According to Aiden's story, he blacked out from the stress of looking for where to steal the cars, and proceeded to beat Kaya with a metal pipe instead. And in the middle of the violent attack, he saw her brain through the fractures in her skull, at which point he began dragging her body to the drainage ditch to hide what he'd done. And this confession matched every piece of physical evidence the investigators had recovered. And so the prosecutors moved to try Aiden as an adult in January of 2018, even though he wasn't actually an adult yet. But while the trial proceedings were still going on, the police cut a plea deal with Aiden to drop the other charges, including initial violation accusations related to why Kaya's body was found partially undressed, under the condition that he pleads guilty. And they did this because the intimate violation allegations couldn't actually be proven and had to be removed from the case. And so after a long trial, Aiden pleaded guilty to first-degree murder on February 14th, 2019. In his plea agreement, Aiden finally admitted he struck Kaya at least 5 times with a metal pipe and dragged her to the ditch, but he never actually explained why.
He wanted to do this. His actions certainly dictate that he intended to kill Kaya Campbell for what he did, and it took quite an effort to do it.
Throughout the proceedings, he never gave a motive or showed remorse. And so on March 11th, 2019, Aiden Zellmer was finally sentenced to life in prison with chance of parole after 40 years. And while this case was absolutely devastating, this next case gets even worse, as it involves a deceptive Pokemon transaction that ended in bloodshed.
She left her home at 8:57 a.m., which was also the last time her family saw her alive.
Are you kidding me? Bro, like, that last story doesn't even count. Like, it's called Pokemon Community. Like, this was barely Pokemon just because they wanted to buy Pokemon cards. Does that really count as a Pokemon community? Like, you talked about the VGC, that's actually the Pokemon community. And like the PokeTubers, that's the Pokemon community. 2 kids going to buy Pokemon cards? That's not the Pokemon community. And this upcoming story is not the Pokemon. This is just a transaction. This could be replaced with any item. She could have bought something from Kijiji or Craigslist, and then something bad, and she got decepted. Alright, let's hear it anyways.
Around 8:57 a.m. on February 7th, 2017, a woman named Shashia Moreau was caught on surveillance camera walking out of her family home in Heist-Opdenberg, Belgium. She was headed to catch a train to Antwerp to meet with someone she'd met online to trade Pokemon figurines and cards, and maybe pick up something rare for her collection. Weeks before that morning, Shashia had connected with Johnny van den Broek on a Facebook group dedicated to Pokemon enthusiasts. Johnny was 25 years old, Shashia was 20 years old, and the two would constantly bond over their shared interests in cosplay and Pokemon. She worked part-time at the indoor playground, spent her free time at conventions, and built an impressive collection of figurines, some worth up to 500 euros or $580 each. And when Johnny offered to show her his impressive collection and give her rare items for free with no strings attached, Shashia believed him, not knowing that Johnny had a pattern. He'd used the same tactic before, where he would invite young women from the group to his apartment and sometimes even offer to pay them up to 500 euros for intimate encounters. But despite that, on that Tuesday morning, she boarded the train from Heist-Opdenberg to Antwerp, which took about 30 minutes, arriving at the Antwerp Central Station at 10:41 a.m. And there she encountered a man matching Johnny's description at the station, and so they subsequently headed to his apartment together. However, at 11:02 a.m., Johnny messaged her on Facebook to confirm their meeting and check if she was en route, even though she was already with him. And the events that unfolded over the next 21 minutes would clarify why he sent that message. Upon getting to Johnny's apartment, Shashia quickly noticed that his intentions weren't about trading Pokemon at all. He leaned in to kiss her, and even though she pulled away, making it clear that she wasn't interested, he pressed on, and things would escalate from there, as Johnny would then proceed to keep going with Shashia before strangling her to death. And by noon, Johnny, seeing that Shashia was dead, began to build his alibi. He took her phone and began to send out messages to her friends and canceled the plans he'd made for later that day. The idea was to make it seem like Shashia was still alive and moving around the city. And shortly after, Johnny left his apartment for an electronics store, MediaMarkt, to buy a shovel. And upon his return, he wrapped Shashia's body and buried her in the small courtyard behind his building. Now, in the process of disposing the body, Johnny injured his hand, and this was evident when he showed up to his evening shift at McDonald's with his hand bandaged. Now, meanwhile, back in Heist-Opdenberg, Shashia's family was growing worried because she was supposed to be home on time for dinner, but she didn't show up, and her phone went straight to voicemail. And so after hours passed with no word from her, Shashia's family reported her missing to Belgium's cell for missing persons, and the unit moved quickly, tracing her phone records and movements. And it wasn't long until they uncovered the Facebook messages between her and John, and based on this information, the police were able to locate Johnny and bring him in for questioning. However, Johnny simply claimed that he'd not seen Shashia that day, saying that while he did go to the station to wait for her, she never actually arrived, pointing out the fake Facebook message he sent. However, the surveillance footage cameras at Antwerp Central Station showed them meeting and leaving together, completely destroying his alibi. And so 2 days after Shashia's disappearance, investigators searched Johnny's apartment and building, discovering bloodstains covering his mattress and a bundle of hair that would later be confirmed as Shashia's. And when the police questioned him about the injury on his hand, he couldn't explain it consistently either, as the story kept changing. And after searching his property, the police would soon uncover Shashia's body in a shallow grave in his backyard, bound and hidden beneath the dirt and debris. And so Johnny was arrested and immediately taken into custody to be charged and tried for Shashia's murder. But the trial didn't actually begin until October of 2019. And over the period of that time that Johnny spent behind bars, he claimed that he couldn't remember what exactly happened that day. However, on the first day of the actual trial, Johnny changed his claim and admitted to ending Shashia's life accidentally. He claimed that they had consensual intercourse and decided to explore choking. And Johnny claimed that he didn't notice when Shashia began to run out of air and didn't mean for her to die. Johnny even demonstrated how the choking happened in court. He used a doll to show how he placed his hands around Shashia's neck and squeezed. He also claimed that his eyes were closed and didn't notice any distress from Shashia. However, of course, the autopsy carried out revealed bruising on her thighs and injuries consistent with non-consensual violence. And this demonstration would end up traumatizing the entire courtroom greatly, so much so that one of the jurors became unwell while watching their demonstration, and the proceedings even had to be paused till the next day. And by the next morning, the prosecutors brought in psychiatrists to evaluate Johnny extensively, after which they diagnosed him as a psychopath with an IQ between 110 and 115. They also noted that he exhibited narcissistic traits and had sadistic tendencies and no sense of boundaries. One psychiatrist even called him a ticking time bomb that detonated on February 7th and warned that he was at high risk of reoffending. And so on October 25th, 2019, the jury found Johnny guilty of murder after rejecting his consensual narrative and ruling it premeditated violence to fulfill extreme fantasies. And so 3 days later, on October 28th, the judge sentenced Johnny to life in prison, plus 15 years of judicial supervision upon any potential release.
Alright, that was an insane video, not gonna lie. Yap Master once again. This guy is just like they said, psychopath behavior. But I still disagree that this is considered Pokemon community. Just because he was trying to buy some figures. You could replace that with anything and then it'd be like the Dragon Ball Z community just because some guy wanted to buy a Dragon Ball Z figure from a guy. This is just most disturbing crimes for children's toys. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, Master. I have to watch your other videos. And if you guys like the video reaction, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.